Hello, LinkedIn makers and movers. Today we have a really fun guest with us. She is a true Cinderella story on LinkedIn. And her LinkedIn journey started a little over a year ago. She only had 4,000 followers, and a year and change later, she recently clocked in at 60,000 followers. Very impressive growth, unheard of across all that I know of LinkedIn. And I'm a LinkedIn geek. And in the past few weeks, she's put out some insane engagement, off the chart numbers that are way bigger even than Adam Robinson and the Alina Vanderbergs of the world. In the span of a week, she did almost 17 million impressions, a couple 100,000 engagements, likes, comments, shares, 21,000 new followers, and then a couple 100,000 profile views, all in the span of that time. This is all the result of a single viral post that we will talk about later. But even before this post, she was ranked number one creator in sales and marketing category by Favicon. It's an influencer marketing platform. She is the number 2 woman creator on LinkedIn in the US and number 18 across the board in the US. A little background for our guest. And normally before every show, I stalk my guests on LinkedIn and Google. But I found a good post where she used ChatGPT to create the most amazing description for herself. So I'm just going to steal that. She's an unapologetically authentic, high-energy communications pro that makes brand strategy, neurodiversity, and leadership feel both deeply human and professionally bold. And I've seen her content, so I believe that to be true. She's a seasoned communications and brand professional. Early in her career, she cut her teeth at PR agencies and Fox Sports. She then moved into the B2B software space, specifically in IT and cybersecurity, in strategic communications roles in large, late-stage venture or public software companies. And over 14 years of her career, rose from line employee to director, VP, and the C-suite. In those roles, you're often pretty close to what's going on in the C-suite and making them sound good for investors and public markets. No surprise that she's very good at LinkedIn. You need to be telling stories, spinning the yarn, and when I see that she's gone from zero to hero in the last year, it seems appropriate. So let's welcome Becca Chambers, a.k.a. Becca from LinkedIn, to the LinkedIn Famous podcast. Welcome to the LinkedIn Famous podcast, the show where we get real about what it takes to build a personal brand on LinkedIn that gets real business results. We're talking about driving revenue from a personal LinkedIn profile by sharing real and authentic stories and points of view. I am Brad Zomick, your host and the founder of Spectrumer, a personal brand consultancy that helps founders and executives get LinkedIn famous. Join me for unfiltered conversations from the trenches of LinkedIn. We'll meet CEOs, go-to-market executives, subject matter experts, and company employees with blockbuster LinkedIn results. We'll unpack strategy and leave you with tactical advice to grow your personal brand and demand for your company's products and services. All right, LinkedIn hustlers, it's time to level up.
Why, thank you. I am thrilled to be here.
So is there anything in your background that you like to double click on?
I think the storytelling piece is the most important piece because no matter what hat I was wearing in the comms and brand world, whether that was executive communications, which is how I started in tech, or rebranding, which I've done multiple times, it's always about the story and the connecting with your audiences. And to your point, I think that's why the LinkedIn thing has been, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I think why it's been natural for me to do this over the past year.
I think you've done a great job architecting your brand. And speaking of LinkedIn and your personal brand, can you tell us something about yourself that your audience couldn't learn from your LinkedIn profile?
Yes, there are so many things. I'll start with I'm a vegetarian, which everyone always says if you're a vegetarian, you tell everybody. I don't tell that many people, but I'm a vegetarian. I have never liked meat, just has never been my thing. And I've been a vegetarian for 20 years, 21 years now. Yeah.
Power to you. That is staying power.
Can't do no butter. How do you live without butter? I had to do it when I was nursing one of my kids who had a dairy sensitivity for 6 months, and it was just misery to even go out to eat. How do you eat without butter? Anyway, yes.
Yeah, I would say there's so many things. But when you eat it all, another question I like to ask about your LinkedIn persona: what is something that people assume about you that isn't true?
that I'm an extrovert. I think everyone always assumes that about me. They have my whole life. I think every teacher I've ever had has complained that I side talk and I distract others in class. And if I could just be more focused, and then throughout my life, oh, Becca can do it. She's an extrovert. I am not an extrovert. I am an introvert who is very good at putting on the energy that I need to put on for whatever the social situation is that I need to do it for. And that is called masking. For those who are not familiar with neurodivergence and ADHD, I have raging ADHD, and part of my life has just been learning how to act and be and make other people feel comfortable.
That comes as a surprise to me. And by the way, I just grabbed the pen off the other side of my desk because I was like, I have to write this down. I have a new question I want to ask everybody. More of a lightning round question. Are you introvert or extrovert? Because I think
That's
it's kind
great.
of interesting in the context of LinkedIn. All these people put a lot of effort, and it's a social platform. So you'd assume that people are getting out there, yakking it up, telling stories, so have a little bit of inclination for extroversion.
To double click on that, everyone also assumes that even if they don't assume I'm an extrovert, they assume that I'm very comfortable just sharing everything, right? Like that, because I do it, it means that it's easy and it's not uncomfortable and I'm not vulnerable. That's not true either. I think all of the things that other people feel, I feel too. I'm just pushing the boundary of my comfort in order to do this thing. And I think that's another important thing for people who are trying to build LinkedIn brands is it's uncomfortable for all of us, especially in the beginning, because we're trying to figure out our voice and we're trying to figure out what our audience likes and what they don't like, and do we care what they like, or do we just want to be ourselves? There's a lot of that, and figuring out how to show up as your authentic self is harder than it seems. But I try to write like I talk, and that makes it easier.
That's a great point. Already dropping the knowledge. So let's dive into your LinkedIn journey.
Yeah.
And the communication expert, you're probably no stranger to the platform. You really went all in a year ago. Rewind a little bit behind that about your experience prior to that moment, but also at that moment, what motivated and inspired you to start investing in your own personal brand on LinkedIn?
I've been on LinkedIn forever, right? Since I graduated from college. And I think my first LinkedIn recommendation is from a grad school professor who said I was his best student. So there you go. I've been on for a long time. Have I been actively adding value to LinkedIn? And I think that's the big difference. I was using LinkedIn before as a way to keep track of what my friends and network were doing. I was sharing my company's successes, my personal successes as far as career stuff, because that's what LinkedIn was for. And I was using LinkedIn to help build the executive brands of the people that I work with, right? The CEOs that I work with, or the chief product officers that I worked with. And some of them had a lot of discomfort with that. I spent a lot of time trying to prove to them why this matters. This is a place where you can get millions of eyeballs on your content. Why are we spending weeks and months chasing a media hit that might not even be our target audience, when the people who are following you on LinkedIn are exactly our target audience? So the more I talked about this, the more I was like, you know what, I need to put my money where my mouth is. And then I got laid off as part of everybody in 2022 to 2025 has decided that brand no longer matters and revenue is the only part of the marketing equation that counts. And I was let go, and I was gutted by this because I had spent so much time making people care about brand, because it is vitally important, and personal brands are too. So I used that opportunity to start adding value. All of the stuff that I would have shared with my team, I am now sharing on LinkedIn. And that's how it started. I looked at it as, you know what? I'm no longer talking to my former colleagues or my high school friends who follow me on LinkedIn, or my college colleagues. I am speaking to my communications team, and I'm just unlocking my brain and talking to them like I would as though we were colleagues. And that is what got me started. And it's like a proof of concept that I can now show to other people as, look, I did this for myself. I would love to do this for you.
I think that is a great frame of mind, because I've been in your shoes too, trying to get every founder or CXO should be on LinkedIn sharing the story. Why wouldn't they? Sometimes it seems like a no-brainer to us. Now you're literally the best example possible. You can say, hey, look at all this attention I brought upon myself. If you were doing something like this, you could bring that attention to the brand. Is that the arguments that you
100%.
make?
I am getting 10 million views from my target audience, and I am not selling anything. Imagine if I was selling something, right? Imagine if I had a brand that I was trying to promote other than just Becca's random musings from LinkedIn. That's 10 million eyeballs. 10 million. That is insane. When you think about, I'm looking at numbers all the time and I start to forget how large 10 million, how many stadiums full of people is that, right? I can't see how getting up and doing a keynote at a conference is more effective than what I'm doing right now. And executives are chasing that opportunity left and right, right? Why are they not doing this thing that they can start doing right now? They don't have to wait. They don't have to buy something. They just have to make a time investment. And that is, not for nothing, an investment, but it is long-term, it pays off. No question.
Yeah. I mean, that's when you think about the cost of advertising these days anyway, that's savings on the budget. Or actually, even when you think about the context of LinkedIn and LinkedIn ads, the ability to retarget on the audience, because it's way cheaper to retarget ads than it is to send cold ads. So
No
you're
kidding.
actually, yeah, you save a ton of money if you
And you know who's engaging with you. There's so much, there's a real people there and you can see who they are. And I just think that there is so much, I wish LinkedIn had better data or better analytics for us, because I think there's so much we could do with that. But it blows me away that people are not investing in this thing, because you don't have to be some thought leader with like sexy graphics and cool video effects. You literally just have to share the things you already know to the people who want to hear it, because not everybody knows what's in your brain. In fact, most people don't know what's in your brain. So share
If
what.
a tree falls in the forest.
100%.
All right. So let's go back to that time, that moment when you just got started. Today, it's a walk in the park, right? But what was it like back then? Were there any challenges early on?
I wouldn't say mistakes. It was a lot of purposeful trial and error, right? Like, I'm going to try this and I'm going to see what happens. And because I was committed to doing it, I every day showed up and I would look and say, who's engaging with my content? What do the numbers look like? Trying to figure out like what is making a difference. And half the time it's just the LinkedIn algorithm being crazy and you have no idea what's making a difference, but you can start to see the things that resonate. And I started to get to the point where I could tell if when I post this, I'm going to get 100 likes in the first hour. I know it. Like I know my audience that well that I can start to do that. And I still post stuff that I know is not going to get 100 likes in the first hour, but it's stuff that is authentic to me and still matters to some number of the people that follow me. And that's why they're following me. So I'm not going to stop that just because it doesn't get the virality that some of my posts do. But this is all leading to an answer to your question, which is I started posting every day, let's say January 1st, 2024. On January 12th or something, one of my posts went viral for me at the time. 200, and I don't remember what the engagement was on it, but it also had a very high engagement rate when you start to get up into the higher impressions, your engagement rate tends to go down. Mm-hmm. My engagement rate was still like 3 or 4%, very good for LinkedIn. Right now, my average engagement rate is like almost 5% with all of these impressions, which again, that says something, right? That means that it's not just people following me who are viewing it, they're doing something with it. And so what I realized in this first viral moment is that the momentum from that carried, and the audience from that post who had started following me or whatever started engaging with my other content. So I was starting to tailor my content for that audience. And then that started to grow. And what I realized is that first viral post is the thing that helped me realize exactly what my niche was on LinkedIn, which is this kind of intersection of communications and authentic brand building and honesty. I guess that's the way to put it. No bullshit, whatever you want to say. And so I share the good stuff and the bad stuff. And that is what it all just started to build on each other. And it was a snowball. There was the first 6 months of 2024. I think I got 3 million views on my content. My goal was to get 1 million for the whole year. And then the second half of the year, I got 13 million views because I ended up with 16 million by the end of the year. So 3 million for the first half of the year. And then by the end, it was 16 million. And I think in December alone, it was like 10 million. So you can see like it really, and then January, I've gotten 20 million this month. So Wow. It's really and now things are slowing down. Now I will have a lull. And I was having 1,000 followers a day. Now I get 100 followers a day, and that's cool. But I'm in there.
Most people would love to have that. Yeah.
But it's funny, right? You get used to this thing and you forget what's relative. And like I said, I try to remind myself, like, that is 100 people who chose to follow my content. That's amazing. And when I go to conferences and stuff, I look around and I just think, 100 people. It's 100 people in this room.
100 people in this room. I'm curious, given your comms background and brand, did you go through some sort of brand architecture? Or I know you did a lot of trial and error. Do you have some sort of document somewhere that's like
for my personal brand?
Yeah. What
nothing. The least strategic. I was joking about this with another comms LinkedIn friend of mine, and she was like, if I hired me to do this, I would have fired myself by now, because there is no strategy. It is this very, and I won't say there's no strategy. Obviously, I'm looking at my data and I'm making adjustments, but it is very just what I feel like. I'm not scheduling posts, and I have comms people and marketing people are mostly who follow me, but I still talk about my kids and my disabilities and my ADHD and whatever else comes to mind that day.
Yeah, I want to make a point which I think is interesting, because I come from a marketing background myself, and it's easy to look at a software company and apply a messaging or brand or content strategy framework to that. But when you look at yourself, you're like, I don't know. It feels weird to do that. But I do agree that you have to do the reps, even for myself. But a year later, it's, now I can do this. I can do it looking backwards, connect the dots. After throwing the spaghetti at the wall and seeing what works and what doesn't, I could put it on paper and it would actually make sense. So.
Totally. And people keep asking me to have a course or create a whatever that they can download of like, how did I do this? And I'm like embarrassed to say that, like, I have tons of advice now, like you said, learnings based on what I've done, but it's not like this is how I built my LinkedIn empire. It's just, This is what happened to work. And I feel like a lot of it is luck and serendipity and timing. Who knows?
Yeah. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
It's
You're
right.
out there doing the cycles, putting yourself out there. If you didn't do that, you would be that tree in the forest. We wouldn't know if it fell or not. So you started to tease us a little bit. You talked about, at least currently, you don't do a lot of planning. You're now doing a couple of posts a day. And by the way, during this time, for part of the year, you were at a company, you're about to be at a new one. Do you have any sort of system for capturing ideas and taking that idea to LinkedIn? It may not be like neat and put in a box, but what does that look like?
Yeah, this is my favorite. It looks like my system for every single thing in my life, which is random ADHD idea, usually when I'm driving, in the shower, or laying in bed. And I know that if I don't write it down that instant, it will be gone forever. And I have learned this about myself because I fooled myself for 30 years. I'll remember that later. I'll slap myself with a rubber band and I'll remember. I will not remember later. So I write it down. And then if I'm in the shower, this is a perfect example. This is terrible advice because you shouldn't take your devices in the shower, but I take my phone in the shower. And if I have an idea, I'll write down the idea because I'll forget it. But then I'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to write it. And I'll just stand in the shower and write not the whole post, but a considerable amount of a post in 2 minutes. And then I'll finish my shower and then I'll forget about it. And then a few days later, I'll go and I'll finish it. And I don't know what that process is, but it is the way that I make sure that whatever is in my brain ends up on a page. And that's where the authenticity comes from, right? It's not I sit down and say, what do I have to write about? It's the shit that I'm thinking all the time is listed somewhere so that when I go down to sit and write, I already have all the ideas that I've had throughout the week and they're ready to go. Or they're half baked half the time. Or I'll go and see somebody else's LinkedIn and see what they wrote and I'll write a comment and I'll be like, you know what? I should just turn that into a post. And then I'll turn it into a post. But it is very like ADHD brain synapse driven.
That resonates with me. I get a lot of my ideas when I'm not sitting in front of my desk. I don't do that anymore. In the beginning, I learned the hard way. When you sit down with nothing to write, it becomes a lot harder. I love that system for capturing lightning in a bottle. I was just thinking you should probably get one of those when you're traveling, those around the neck phone bags for going swimming.
Seriously. I just need to I need to get the glasses that you can talk to and just wear them in the shower. Too much. I've gone too far.
Yeah, well, they have these AI devices now. Someone was telling, I don't know what it's called, but like you wear it around your neck and you just tell it things. We're almost there.
These are going to be ADHD accommodations or all sorts of disability accommodations in the future, because it really is like the ability to not lose your thought in while you're in thought is actually like a pretty big issue for some of us. And yeah, I would love that. I would love to have a little note taker taking notes of my brain all the time.
I'm a non-linear thinker, so my brain is often all over the place, and that's why I keep talking points in front of me for these podcasts. But I thought actually the ADHD came from me from these like social platforms, right? It's being glued to your phone and all the stimuli and stuff. So I always felt like in the age of like social media and devices, like everyone has it a little bit, right?
Your attention is being pulled in many directions all the time. That is for sure. No question.
So I'm curious, your system, not a system. Well, clearly, there's some stuff working there. Where are you capturing these ideas?
Straight up Apple iPhone notes. Just old school, crappy. I will make it. I have one ongoing note that is LinkedIn ideas that I would never show anybody because it is total gibberish to most people. Some of them are like fully written posts. Some of them are one line. Here's a topic. And I'll just go and like peruse through there and find something that strikes my fancy. Because honestly, this idea of sitting down and being like, now is my creative time. I'm going to think of ideas and I'm going to write. Like that is what is stopping people from writing on LinkedIn or creating content on LinkedIn. It is like all this pressure you put on yourself to perform. Have a good idea right now. That's hard. Don't do that. Have a good idea when you have a good idea. Just write it down and then go perfect it later. Yeah. That's my best advice, really, truly.
When so you have your rough draft that you vomited out and your ongoing list. When you sit down to write, do you have a framework or a checklist to get the perfect post out there?
I don't. And sometimes I write on my phone and I'll write the whole post on my phone, send it immediately. Sometimes I'll write it on my phone and then I'll be like, you know what? I know this is going to be filled with errors. I need to go read it on my computer later when I'm not as tired, and then I'll go read it later. Other times I will write something and I know it's a good post, but I know it's not written well, right? And I'll just ruminate on it and I'll think about it and I'll edit and I'll edit and I'll edit. And those are always the posts that end up sucking. And they're the ones that probably have the best ideas in them, but they don't perform as well. And it's because I've stripped out the true voice that it started as. And it's just because I'm self-critiquing and over perfectionist, whatever, thinking, but the posts that just go out that are just like, here's an idea, I'm just going to send it. I did one during the Super Bowl. It wasn't even about the Super Bowl. I just used a photo of Kendrick Lamar from the Super Bowl and said, when legal approves it on the first round of edits or whatever. It's got 50,000 views and 30 seconds. I didn't even think about it before I posted it. I was just like, boom, here's an idea, go. And those are the ones that always perform. Always.
That is funny. You put all the effort into it. Those are the flops, and the ones that you don't do anything. You just blow on it, it comes out, and then you half-assed it, and like, why does this work?
It is because people see authenticity. I'm telling you, I am like convinced that people would rather see, posts with errors and whatever and random stories about your life than these like beautifully perfected 5 ways to make your marketing shine posts. I just think that like people like the human element of that. And now that we're spending, to your point earlier, so much time online, when you could have a real human connection with someone, it's just more meaningful and you'll want to spend more time in that space than in the, let me tell you why you should buy this thing or why you should feel this way about a brand or even just the, I have advice for you. Like people like advice when they hear it from a friend, not when they hear it from like the marketing guru. Some people do, but.
These are all great points. So I want to shift gears a little bit. In the intro, I mentioned this viral post experience. I want you to just tell us the story as it is. I saw the post and I was like, wow. Not only like the content to me, was deeply resonant, but also the numbers are just, I've never seen a LinkedIn post.
Astonishing.
So take it away. Tell us about that.
Again, a completely reactionary, I spent 2 seconds writing it, a post in response to when I saw a certain rich billionaire, I'm not going to say his name because the bot armies will come after me, did what I interpreted as a Nazi salute. And as a Jewish person, I saw it and I literally was like, oh, like I gasped when I saw it. And so my initial reaction as a Jewish person who is feeling rising anti-Semitism in the United States was to go say, this is not okay. And everyone should say that this is not okay because we should never allow Nazi symbolism. And that was the post with a picture of said person doing it. I actually, and this wholeheartedly, did not think it was a controversial post. I thought we would all agree that kind of salute is bad. And I thought it was just somebody would be like, you know what? Thank you for saying that, because we need more people in leadership who are willing to say anti-Semitism is bad. That is not what happened. What happened instead is the post was removed. It started gaining traction. It had 100 likes in 2 minutes and was promptly removed. I don't know what LinkedIn fairies on the LinkedIn side, somebody did something and it was reinstated, although it says to me that it's not. On my end, it says you are the only person who can see this post, which is not true, because then 20 million people have seen it since then, or almost 19.5 million people have seen it since then. And the first 24 hours was nothing but vitriol coming my way. I won't say nothing but vitriol. The comments were 90% just, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're so stupid, blah, 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 blah. Then I started getting messages, DMs from people who were adding me as a connection just so they could send me nasty messages. I was getting phone calls to my personal phone.
Wow. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Threatening. I was getting death threats. Oh my God. I didn't even name this person in the post. I just said, doing Nazi salutes is bad. And I got a lot. And then I started getting a lot of very positive messages. Thank you so much. Why are there not more leaders doing this? I cannot believe we're in this point where people are defending this. This is clearly not a insert whatever justification is for that. And I noticed that in that first week, all of the comments on the post were negative, but my DMs were 10 to 1 positive. I was getting 10 positive to 1 negative, and 20,000 new followers. It actually is 25,000 new followers, but I lost 4,000 followers. So it netted out to 21,000. And it was, I would say, not fun. I wouldn't want that to happen again. It came up in job interviews by people who were interviewing me in a not necessarily good way. It came up, I had people texting me from past in my life. Oh my God, Becca, I can't believe this. Like, you're so brave. Are you worried? Really? I don't know. It was too much. So I guess in that there's good and bad, right? I have a much larger audience now. I don't even know who they are, which is interesting.
Yeah, it might be different from that audience that you collected, right?
And those people are following me based on this one post. If they think that I'm here to do a political post, that's not my thing. Like, I'm not a political poster. I'm posting about marketing and kind of snarky takes about the way companies treat their employees. Like, that's not the same. It's not the same genre. And I think I'm starting to see people are dropping off. I have, like I said, I'm having far fewer followers than I used to. And that's okay, right? I don't want people to stick around if they are following me, hoping for that and getting Schitt's Creek gifs instead.
Those are really funny. I had to bring that up at some point. Your Schitt's Creek GIF game is off the chain. Clearly, you've watched the show many times over.
There is always a Schitt's GIF for any mood, and it will always express. If anyone has watched, I am a visually expressive person. I have an expressive face and hands and whatever, and their GIFs just do such a good job capturing whatever it is that I am feeling in the moment.
Yeah, but I do want to say, I saw your post. It resonated with me. I don't talk about my religious identity too much on here on LinkedIn, but I am Jewish. I'm more like the New York Bagels type of Jew who likes sarcasm, but doesn't do a lot of worship. I think the guy is deeply troubled. I was a little disappointed. Some of my favorite people in the media, Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway, let him off the hook very easy. I think a lot of people are afraid of what's going on in the country. But let's not get too into politics. But I do think it's a good opportunity to seg into the impact that LinkedIn has had on your life. Clearly, this one post, drove a lot of anxiety and positivity in the span of the last couple of weeks. The growth was happening way before that. Just went asymmetric. What happened in your work and your life in the last year as a result of your investment in LinkedIn?
I've landed on LinkedIn Lunatics at least 4 times, if that counts as a win. And the first time, I didn't even know it had existed, and people started texting me, did you know that you're on this? And I was like, oh God, no, I didn't. And I have like thin skin. I was very offended. And this was very early in my LinkedIning, before I was Becca from LinkedIn and just a lady who sometimes had some posts go viral. And this was my most viral post at the time. And I was so offended. Oh my God, why are people being so mean? I'm nice. Don't be mean to me. Anyway, what was the question? I totally ADD'd
Oh,
myself.
yeah. All good. So, what is the impact that LinkedIn's had on
Oh
your
yeah,
the work and your
the best
life?
question.
Yeah.
I don't know. It has opened a lot of doors like this. I have so many cooler conversations than I used to have. And I'm meeting so many more people. And not just, okay, we're connecting on LinkedIn, we're getting on podcasts, we're having conversations, or I'm being invited to speak at events. PRSA had me moderate a panel with their journalists. Super fun. LinkedIn invited me to speak at a disability event. Super fun. Like that kind of stuff is very, it's validating for me. It gives me like a sense of purpose, right? Like I like doing that kind of stuff. And it's also pushing myself outside my comfort zone in new ways. So all of that, I'd make a little bit of money speaking at events, but like mostly I'm doing it because I like to do it. And it's opening those doors for me, which isn't nothing. But earlier we were talking about how much it like paves the way for things. And I think recently accepted a new job. And by the time this airs, I will have started my new job. It's as a CMO at a venture capital firm, which is totally different than what I've done before and not something I would have applied to myself. But somebody at a recruiting firm found me not because of my content, because of my keywords in my LinkedIn profile. But the content and the what I did on LinkedIn is why they ended up hiring me, not the whole reason. That is part of my value that I bring because what do venture firms sell? Every venture firm is selling the same thing. So brand really matters. The brand of the firm and the individual investors within the brand matter so much. And so I'm able to go in and tell them, oh, look at this thing that I just built over the last year. Here's how I did it. Here's how I would apply that to you or to the brand or insert thing that we need to do here. It's all of the things that anybody who cares about a brand needs to hear. And I've just done it. I have the social proof to prove it. And on top of that, they can go and look and see, hey, we know what Becca's because she's got 19 podcasts out there from the last 3 months. So like we see her personality, right? They're not guessing. Even though I went through 15 rounds of interviews or whatever, they also get all of this extra context about who I am because I've shaped my narrative online. And I think that's the opportunity for everybody. It's not just, oh, here's my resume, it's online. People get a sense of who I am. It's no, they want to know what your personality is like. They want to know what your values are. They want to know how you speak, what you're interested in. Are you the kind of person that they want to go and sit next to for 8 hours every day? And, or somebody's listening to this podcast right now and they're like, damn, Becca is saying the exact thing. We need exactly that. Then if somebody is like, hey, there's a job open, another person's going to say, you should talk to Becca. That did happen a lot actually in my job search for what it's worth, is I had a lot of referrals from people I didn't know who were telling their friends, you should talk to Becca because they saw me on LinkedIn.
So I think that's a testament to the power of personal brand. A lot of the time I have a founder on here, really, it's the same strategy for an individual as it is for a founder. The founder just, or the CXO or whatever, they just have a product they're pointing the stories to. Everything gets wrapped in storytelling. And I would say, look at guys like Adam Robinson. He's pretty authentic, bears it all. That's probably why he's doing so well. But yeah, like I said,
people want to buy from people, man.
Yeah.
Like people want to buy from people that feel like them. Or the person we were talking about earlier, what happens? He's ruined his personal brand for a lot of people who will no longer buy Teslas, right? Because of a person, not because of anything that Tesla has done. And I think people are underestimating how much personal brand matters, especially in this next phase. Like, I think it's really started to matter. And I think the next 5-10 years, AI taking over everything, like you have the ability to shape your story. You should be shaping your story. Somebody's going to shape it for you if you're not.
We are entering an era of AI, and there's going to just be a waterfall or tsunami even of AI-driven content.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is going to be terrible. And what will cut through the noise is real humans telling real stories about their real life. What advice would you give someone who wants to build their LinkedIn presence? Someone who's starting from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, maybe one way to look at it, if you were starting over, is there something you would do differently?
I would not do something differently, actually. However, have started to wrap my learnings into a package that I can share with other people. Since so many people ask me, I've created almost my like elevator speech of this is what I would do if I was starting on LinkedIn. First thing, absolutely essential, I've said it 97 times in the 45 minutes we've been talking, is you have to show up authentically. And that means good things, bad things, awkward things, wins, fails, whatever. People are drawn to content that feels real, not overly polished. We also talked about that. Not overly curated, not just, look at me, I'm awesome. They want to connect with humans. And I think figuring out your voice and being able to articulate that in an authentic way is the number one most important thing that people need to do, and not overuse AI, because that will strip your voice out of it, right? Use AI to help you with however you want, but make sure it is being articulated in your authentic voice. 2, say the quiet part out loud. That goes into the vulnerability, that goes into the authenticity piece. But when you say something that you know everybody in your role is thinking, that resonates. So when I say the things that all comms, people reduce us to the, can you make this pretty, right? We're the itty bitty make it pretty committee is what I joke about. Comms people feel that in their soul. And that is not something that we're all talking about, right? But we all feel it. Say the quiet part out loud, and you are going to have people who want to share that because they're feeling it and they don't know how to articulate it. And if you put it into words for them, they're able to just be like, share, yes, me too, I agree. Goes with controversy too. I talk about M dashes and Oxford commas all the time. Apparently that's a controversial take, and that will get people engaging, always. And then the last thing that seems obvious, but I will always reiterate it to people, is you have to have a strong hook. And if you don't have a strong hook, your post is worthless. So write your post, whatever you want it to be about, and then go rewrite your hook. And if you post it and it's not performing that, go write a new hook, edit it. Who cares? The whole editing's going to ruin your reach thing is total BS. At least my data shows it's total BS. I edit all of my posts. Focus on the hook. If it's not working, rewrite it. Make a better hook.
That's some great advice. I wanted to ask earlier in your process in terms of being authentic, what does engagement look like for you? Or what, obviously with the scale of following that you have now versus then is very different. So maybe going back to the beginning, what were you doing? And were you doing much in terms of commenting, engaging with others?
So good question. I think in the beginning, I was mostly engaging with my friends, like people I know on LinkedIn, not necessarily friends, people who I know in real life. I would be commenting on their stuff, and then I would be commenting on the people who were engaging with my content. Always. I try, and lately it's gotten harder because of the just sheer volume, but I try to engage with every single person who sends me a message or comments on my post, always. So that I've always done. What changed over those months is that my network of people who I didn't know in real life, but who I started to think of as friends online, started to grow. And when I started engaging with those people's content regularly, not like famous influencers. I know people always say to do that. It's go comment on big account, go comment on their things, whatever. I never did that. I would go comment on people who I met on LinkedIn who I was trying to form a relationship with. And that's how real authentic conversations happen. And then people see you in the comments and they're like, oh my God, she's funny. She just said something hilarious. Or, oh, she's friends with this guy and I love that guy. I'm going to follow her too. And that's how you get that like next level of people who are your target audience, but who aren't people you would necessarily run into at a conference, right?
That's some good advice. You had a good one in there. The myth of editing a post impacts your reach. Are there any other myths out there that you want to dispel from LinkedIn?
I have so many rules that I break. Oh my gosh. I have posts about it. So if you ever want to go read my whole thing, go like search rule break and Becca and you'll find it because I've written about it more than once. But I post more than once a day, always, twice or 3 times a day. Since I've been doing that, both my engagement and impressions are way up. So people say you do that and they both go down. Mine does not. The adding photos, you're supposed to add photos to your posts. My all text, long form, like essay posts are the ones that perform the best, almost always. I think out of my top 20 posts, 2 of them had images attached to them and none of them are selfies. The selfie posts do the worst, but they do well within your very close circle. If I have something to share, I know that a selfie post is going to resonate with all the people that I know in real life, and that's fine. What are the other rules that I break? I think the not posting once a day and the editing are my 2 big ones that I break the most. And I always tell people that they should break those rules because you do you, people. Oh, I don't schedule posts. This is that other thing. I don't have a strategy, right? I just show up and I do it when I feel like it, when I'm awake and have time.
Yeah. I'm gonna follow the space because I'm eager to see what happens from the one day you do have something you want to promote and sell.
It'll happen. And I'm starting a job. By the time this airs, I will have started my job. I'm sure that I will be talking about the stuff that I'm working on, right? There will be more of an opportunity to link my brand to the brand that I am working with. And for better or worse, my brand will be associated with that brand. And I think that, how do I leverage that? I don't know, but stay tuned. Watch this space.
Yeah. Do you want to mention the name of the VC firm?
It's called Scale Venture Partners. You can go to the website now, and then you can go back in 6 months because I'm going to make it much better.
I'm sure with your comms and brand background, I see a rebrand coming in the future.
I'm not going to say a rebrand. I'm not going to be that CMO, but we are going to refresh and make very amazing messaging because I'm the queen of storytelling and messaging, and that is my thing. And this job is so exciting because it's literally brand, thought leadership, events, all of the stuff that kind of lights me up and allows me to leverage all of the skills that have been on display here in a bigger way with a bigger budget and more people. That
sounds pretty fun. A hypothetical question for you. Mm-hmm. You're running LinkedIn for a day. What's the first thing you would change?
Analytics. Give everybody data.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm so about it. I don't understand. I think there obviously has to be a purposeful reason for it, but people can do so much more if we had data or an ability to plug in third-party tools in a way that was...
It's crazy you have to pay for a third-party tool to get good data, and even that's not that good. But
LinkedIn will punish you for it. I know people that have gotten banned because of it, because it's like automation, even though we're just using it for the data. But yeah, I think, and there are new tools coming on the scene like Favicon, we were talking about that earlier, which ranks people, and you can get some data from that. You can see people's engagement rates and data on their posts, which is super helpful. But why do you have to pay for a third-party tool for some of this stuff? Like, why can't I see what my engagement rate is from LinkedIn? Why does Favicon know that and LinkedIn doesn't, right? Oh my God. Yeah. And I was training a GPT, I call it Becca GPT, so that I can spar with it and have it help me edit stuff and whatever. And training it, I wanted all of my LinkedIn stuff, but in order, I have to do the cumbersome download LinkedIn data. It's a mess. So that would be the first thing that I change.
That is a good thing to change. I wish you could have a magic wand that could change that for all of us. But I think the truth is LinkedIn was built for companies to recruit and also to ship ads. Meanwhile, all these creators out there like you are out there creating the ad space for people to advertise on.
I do think there's a big opportunity for linked influencers. And I'm not just saying that because I'm, quote, influencer now. I think it is... that is where buyers and B2B audiences live. And I don't understand why brands are sleeping on that and why we're still promoting stuff from our brand site rather than from our employees. And I don't know. To me, like we said, it seems obvious to us, but clearly it's not to everybody.
Yeah, I'm very excited for you and your new job at Scale. Is there anything else exciting as we wrap things up that you would like to share or plug?
Go to my website, www.beccachambers.com or beccahasADHD.com, if that's easier to remember. I am starting a podcast with another big name person in the communication space that I will share on my website. So you can go there and find out more about that.
All right. I will be one of the first to be checking that out. Thank you so much for your time and being generous with your insights. Everybody go follow Becca Chambers, Becca from LinkedIn. And until next time, let's stay connected.
Yeah, thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, follow Brad and Spectimer on LinkedIn for hot takes and tactical executive branding advice. For the readers in the audience, subscribe to LinkedIn Famous on Substack. And if you really loved this episode, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting platform of your choice. Until next time, stay bold, authentic, and keep on creating.